going to meet a client to help them with a kitchen rehab. Just thinking back on some things today, getting a little reminiscent. So if you're joining, love to hear your stories, but I'm going to tell you a few of my own stories about real estate horror stories. So essentially, I want to just go through some of the horror stories that I had to deal with as a investor, as a contractor, as everything else that you're doing, because it's just important to understand where we're coming from. So first horror story we're going to talk about. This has a happy ending. It's okay. There's a rental property we have. It's a 2-flat. And initially when we first bought it, there were some issues with some of the things that we did, and the client didn't. We wanted to sell the property. The intention was for this to be a flip. So we went to go flip the property. And when we went to go flip the property, we had a buyer who said, well, we want a new back porch. There was like a little bit of unsteadiness. It was a quick fix, but they wanted a $40,000 credit on this back porch. $40,000. Now, keep in mind, this was, I think, the purchase price on the property. This is in Chatham, Grand Crossing. It was $190, I believe, at the time, and they wanted a $40,000 credit. Well, needless to say, we said no. We're not giving you a $40,000 credit. We'll give you, I think we offered them like a $5,000 credit, and that's on top of us giving them a 6% buyer credit for buying the property. So this is before all the NAR regulations, so not trying to violate anything. By the way, I'm a fully licensed realtor, fully licensed contractor, so just coming in with that, making sure that's in there. When we were going through, we said, no, we're not going to give you a $40,000 credit. That's not happening. That's nuts. So they said, well, we're not sure. We don't want to do it. We went back and forth. After about a month, the client dropped. We're like, okay, we'll go find somebody else. We went to go find somebody else. They signed a contract, and we had, and then we had what was it? I think it was their uncle died or something like that. I don't remember the exact story, but it was like someone in their family passed away, and they didn't want to do the transaction anymore. So we're like, okay, got it. So they dropped. Then we had a third person. They dropped. I don't remember why. I think they just dropped in general. They didn't even do an inspection. They just decided they didn't want to do the purchase anymore. So we had 3 people who dropped from this property. So again, this is my real estate horror story of the day, talking about what happened. So we had 3 people who dropped, and then as we continued to go, we're like, okay, we're getting close. We had used a hard money loan to rehab this property, and we'd spent about 4 or 5 months rehabbing the property. And then the first buyer was a month or 2, the second buyer was a month, then it took us a little while to get the third buyer, and then we got a 4th buyer, and they dropped again, and because they wanted something ridiculous in there. I don't even remember what they wanted. At this point, it was just like, what the heck? And by the time we get to the 4th buyer, it had already been almost 11, 12 months, and we had a 13-month hard money loan. And hi, by the way, I see people saying hi. I'm on the road right now, so if I'm not fully responding right away, my apologies. But I definitely want to hear your horror stories. Going back to this one, we were on the 12th month of a 13-month hard money loan. We're like, oh shoot, we better refinance this and we'll just turn it into a rental. Well, we will go to a lender that we know. They set us up, and they gave us to the lender. We're all set to closing. The title company says we need one more thing from the city. The city says, well, you have to come in person to do that. So we told the lender, go in person to do that. Go tell the title company, go in person. They said, okay, well, we'll get it done. We said, can we do it? We can get it done pretty quickly. They said no. 3 weeks later, we went over our time for our hard money loan because they have a certain limit. They charge you like an extra $4,000 to $5,000 on that time period. And so they charged us money for that. Then as we got to the closing, we were gonna have to bring some money in. So all of a sudden, we went from selling a property and making a profit of like $50,000 to having to bring $10,000 in at a closing on a refinance so we could rent out the property. So that was fun. Put a tenant in there. She turned out to be not the greatest tenant. It sucked. But we're the good ending is that we have a tenant in there on the first floor who's Section 8. She's great. Pays on time, reliable, very nice woman. And then on the second floor, there's a family who's doing an Airbnb because we furnished the second unit and we turned it into a furnished Airbnb where people can go and they can just, if they need a few months to stay somewhere, they can stay in a furnished place. So that's the horror story for today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a horror story, I might have one more. I'm waiting to see if anyone has anything. I'm on the road, so I'm not looking that closely. If you're putting a comment in there, put it in big caps. I want to hear the story. Okay, I don't see anything, so I'm gonna keep going. Second horror story. This is not so much a horror story. This was just an inconvenient story, I guess. Bernie and I had owned a property. It was one of our first properties that we bought. It was the first property we bought, and we bought this row house. Now, for those of you who don't know, a row house is like a townhome or condo, but they don't have an association. Like most townhomes, most condos have associations because all the buildings are connected. Well, the problem is if you don't have an association, you could say, hey, which we did, we advertised 0 association fees. The problem is that this place had so many bugs, so many rats and stuff like that. We found rats in there and everything else. It was gross. I'm probably gonna bend this. So I'll have to take that call in a minute. But we had so many different rats and bugs and everything else, and eventually what happened was that we had to get rid of the property just because we couldn't deal with all the infestations because of the fact that there were too many people there. So with that said, we took care of it. It was all great in the end, and we were able to move forward with other properties. We sold that, but we basically broke even on selling it. So that's pretty much it. This is Andy Nathan, Real Estate Horror Stories, coming to you from Lakeshore Drive. It's a little crowded on here, but that's okay. Have a great day, a better week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.